Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Fabric Developer. I got MJ here today, and he's got an interesting find for us this week. MJ, do you want to talk about the find?
Yes. So Microsoft recently published about ways on bringing data from SQL to Fabric, right? Again, that's a very interesting take because that's really the low-hanging fruit of things, right? Like you have a data from SQL, and quite honestly, you're looking at Fabric because you're in the Microsoft ecosystem. You have a SQL Server workload, you have an Azure SQL workload, and you're already seeing some banners around saying, "Hey, move data to Fabric," or get your data to Fabric, right? So this
Yeah,
particular blog that we found published by Microsoft is literally talking about that.
yeah, cool. And so this is SQL only. Like if you've got Redshift or other kind of things, that's not what this is going to cover. But I think it's still quite useful because when you have multiple databases, I can't query across multiple databases. So it's easier when I run the analytical reporting side of things to bring everything together into Fabric in this case. And there are a number of different ways. So yeah, MJ, I'll let you show us the blog.
All right. So basically, this article by Lilian, I believe she's from Microsoft. It's about SQL to Microsoft Fabric migration, beginner-friendly strategies. So again, this is our take on this. Um, so these are kind of like some highlights that she's mentioning here. First off is mirroring. We've talked about mirroring before, if you remember.
Yeah,
And yeah, again, this is again a good low-hanging fruit to get started with Fabric, right? Especially if you have an Azure SQL workload, transactional workload, and you wanna move, that into an analytical workload. Mirroring is best for you, because there are a lot of benefits, but the most, benefit out of that is that the mirror is free, right? The replica of that database is free. You'll just have to pay for the compute and the actual, you know, storage that you'll incur as part of querying that database. Um, yeah, and then yeah, now these are like the different strategies, like beginner friendly. First off is this notebooks and pipelines, Azure SQL DB. This is more around ETL, right? Like this is kind of like performing an extract transform load capability, meaning you have a data from a source and you want to put that to Fabric. So again, that's
yeah,
different from mirrors that we just talked about. It's like database, copy it, put it in there.
yeah,
There are many ways to do it in Fabric. You can use notebooks, and even in Notebook, you can use different programming language, R, Python, Scala. You just have to do some ODBC connection to the SQL server, get the data, perform the query, move it into somewhere, put it in a lakehouse, put it in a warehouse, right? Again, just lands into a Delta Parquet format, pretty much. And what we've done before as well, is the pipelines through copy activity, right? So that copy activity is very, very, powerful. And again, it's just solves a lot of those problems we're in. Like instead of creating a code in a notebook to perform a copy activity, you just, a no code, low code solution, grab the table, put it into somewhere, right? The next part that they're talking about here is CDC. I believe we haven't talked about CDC yet in detail, Dave, in previous
yeah,
episode, but the core idea here is that Azure SQL, and I think even SQL Server, modern SQL Server, has this capability called CDC, meaning change data capture. Like it's sending notification to a listener saying, "Hey, I'm updating my tables. I'm updating my rows. New records are coming. Hey, someone deleted this row. Someone updated this, row," and so on and things like that. And then those updates are kind of like sent as a message to the listener. And Fabric has that capability with real-time intelligence to listen to that CDC. And that means that you can basically perform an incremental copy, right, of that changes that's happening in your source system. Uh, Um, what else? The Yeah, like in the on-prem world, this is where it's a bit um, tricky because you don't have a lot of I would say cloud native-ish approach
yeah,
on this. The approach usually is still more or less ETL, right?
yeah,
So that means that you're still probably going to basically yeah, like perform a query of some sort, like let's say using again notebooks or using pipelines, using copy activity, you can still use those, right? But the challenge there is that there's not much kind of like technique yet to handle that operationally speaking, meaning that operational aspect of doing the copying, syncing, or transformation. It's something that you still have to manage.
Yeah.
Unlike
So
you
it's
know,
all manual, everything needs to be set up at pretty much the table level, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's why I think they've introduced this CTAS concept.
Someone creating a select statement
Yeah.
the in the source DB,
Hmm.
and that get captured as a way of what optimization or caching or
No, no, no. Like for example, this image here, right? That's being showed here. Like you see that like you create an external table. So it's a single SQL query, they
yeah,
right? So you create an external table, but that external table is based off this select statement here, right? Like
right,
it's kind of like creating a view, pretty much, right? It's just like creating
yeah,
a view. But instead of creating a view, you're creating an external table to a different pretty much database, right? A
mm.
different engine. So yeah, it's like creating a view, but yeah, instead of a view, it's an external table, literally living on an external database as well. Yeah.
So is this to say that from the source, it will actually run this and to create the table in Fabric?
Yes, correct. Yes, yes, correct. So basically here, right? Like you create an external table, right? Most likely it's an external table in a warehouse, Fabric warehouse, and then what happens there is that you select this, like perform a select statement from, let's say, the source table, and then that's it. Right? But then there's a linking between that, right? So that's why whenever you open the table in when you perform a query in Fabric, it's always linked to the source, right? So it's like creating a view, but the view is in
Yeah,
the
right.
new world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So that's basically like a bare bones shortcut, really, right? It's kind of like a bare
Mhm.
bones shortcut now I think about it.
Right.
Um,
So all the compute and everything still happens in the original
I think so.
SQL,
Yeah. So
right?
there's still an egress aspect on that. Meaning there's still a data egress aspect that's happening whenever you perform a query. Yeah,
Mhm.
because the data never lives in Fabric at that point in time.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Then the third one is mirror. Yeah, but we talked about mirror already earlier.
Yeah, mirror is
Um,
just like when we tested it, mirror is quite. I think if we just quickly, if you want to quickly just capture the mirroring, I'll put a video link as well for
yeah.
the previous one. But if you want to kind of try to talk about it at high level,
Yeah, so basically mirroring is like a managed solution of Microsoft for this scenario, right? It uses that CDC concept, but instead of you setting that pipeline somehow, right, with the
yeah,
change data capture, it's all managed for you by Fabric in a GUI fashion, right?
yeah,
So that operationally speaking, you don't maintain that anymore. It's kind of like managed for you. Yeah, again, it's kind of like a pipeline workflow that's managed instead of you creating that pipeline.
yeah. And also to mention, like when we did our testing, at least the mirroring is near real time as well.
Yeah, no,
So
it's pretty
that's
good.
yeah,
Okay, so fourth option, this is new to me, or at least I'm not using it or haven't used it in practice yet. So SQL Server streaming. Okay, okay, it still relies on CDC. However, you'll need to enable CDC yourself. Okay, yep, you need to enable that. So that means that I see, I see. So, but then I see. So basically, you're now telling your Azure or your SQL database to push it to a known event stream instead
yeah,
of the other way around, right? Like the CDC concept in the beginning, it's more around like, hey, turn on your CDC. Hey,
yeah,
I'm gonna listen to you. But this one is like, hey, turn on CDC and I'm gonna push to you.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now that makes sense. All right. Yeah, again, this is just a streaming concept, right? Again, CDC means you just get any updates, new rows, new deletes, new updates, and like push that
Yeah.
to that downstream system. And that means you can use KQL as well with this approach instead of using lakehouse or warehouse. So yeah, and in some cases that you want to create some real time reporting from your transactional database, this is probably one of the options
Mm.
out there to generate that real time report. So there you have it. So that's all four of the options out there. Um, Again, first is to use notebooks and pipelines to perform some ETLs. Second is to use CTAS, which is like creating a external table from a select statement. And third would be using mirrors in Azure SQL DB. And fourth is streaming, again, via CDC. So those are really options out there for bringing data from an Azure, or not just even Azure, just a SQL workload or SQL data into
Yeah.
Fabric.
Yeah, and that's the broad approaches, but devil's in the details. So notebook, for example, we talk about there's so many different approaches. We've seen that. There's some of them. So CDAS, for example, that's quite interesting. I think we can probably explore a little bit further in one of the future videos as well. Yeah, just different ways of. I think it's a good summary that what William has done there. Just to summarizing the high level approaches that's possible for the sequel side of things. Will be interesting whether there's going to be more blog posts around like even broader in the AWS or Postgrad or whatever world that's there's so many different popular stuff out there. So great. Yeah. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much, MJ, for sharing with us your thoughts on that blog post from Microsoft. And looking forward to see you again in the next video.
All right, no worries. See ya. Bye.